Hey everybody, it's Inappropriate Characters. Take it away, somebody.
Hello. Can everybody hear us there?
Hello, can you hear us?
I'm going to presume that you can. And this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and I'm here today with Venture Satanis and Hentai Dad, who has maintained his perfect and undefeated record of not getting this show started smoothly. Well, that's okay.
That was just mean.
Well, he's the only one who could even get it started at all, so that's what we're dealing with, right?
This is true.
So that sounds good. And we got a new subscriber. Going to call out Randy J. Just subscribed. Thank you, Randy.
Good job, Randy J.
You're the man.
Listen, I have to before we start today's episode, I have to comment on something. I had mentioned in my last YouTube video on, I think it was it on Wednesday, I think, that we would be having a guest star, and I think some other people had suspected that as well, and we were going to have a guest star. The guest star was going to be Sandy Peterson, who we had invited, and he would happily agreed to come on and to talk about, just like our previous interviews, talk about his past, his role in the development of the RPG hobby, and then also about his current controversies. But instead, he, at the last moment, he got some advice from some kind of consultants that he or his family had hired and decided to chicken out. And that's a real pain, because we had suggested already. I was careful in my video not to name who the guest star was going to be, because I was worried about both the possibility of a last-minute harassment campaign or something like this. I had really hoped that he was going to have the guts to come on here, because he'd shown himself to be pretty based in his response to the SJWs on Twitter, to the attacks they were making against him. But in the end, he's gotten some advice from some very, very stupid consultants. Now, I don't know if we're going to make this we're going to talk more about this, about the current Sandy Peterson drama, let's say. But I'll ask Job here what it is that we want to do in what order, because he's the one that's got the agenda. So we might go to this later and first start with whatever is his first topic of the night. So Job, what have we got tonight?
Okay. Well, I do want to just add that Sandy did say he would come on in a few months, but that remains to be seen. I don't know if but I hope so. That would be a great.
A few months. I'll point out though, a few months is not when he needed to be here for himself, for us, or for the hobby, right? Yeah. A few months is kind of irrelevant at this point.
Okay. Well, we're going to start off with the Drizzt stuff, I guess. The R.A. Salvatore. Over. Topic number 1.
All right. So are you starting us off on this, Job, or I don't know who brought up the Salvatore?
So I guess I'll start up on this one. I don't know. My video's broken for something. I'll worry about it later. So basically, I think we've talked in the past about, R.A. Salvatore is kind of been distancing himself from his own creations. And so there was a new Polygon article that came out, I don't know, about sometime last week, where basically, he's bowing down and saying, agreeing with all these kind of leftist activists they're telling him that his books are racist, that Drow are racist, and I don't know. I mean, there was a bunch. I took some of the quotes out of the article that were just from R.A. Salvatore that I thought were just like the most ridiculous parts. So one of them was, I can't think of this is a quote from R.A. Salvatore. I can't tell you how many letters I've gotten over the years from people who have said thank you for Drizzt. Salvatore said, I finally have someone who looks like me. I will just refer everyone to the GIF, animated GIF. What the hell are you talking about, R.A. Salvatore?
Sinuo Chang?
That's
Is that
what he
you?
said. Is literally word for word. I'm quoting out of the Polygon article. Everybody can look it up. It's D&D's Drizzt books were built on racist tropes. So I don't even know what he's talking about. I mean,
So wait. Is it bad that Drow look like black people, or is it good? It's like, what's his argument there? Because I thought that the standard argument was Drow are look like black people, and that's somehow racist, and so therefore evil. Reality, as far as I can see, is that Drow don't look like black people. They're black elves. They're something totally different. They're not meant to be a metaphor for black people or something like that, but fine. But now suddenly he's coming along and he's saying, no, I've had all these people that were so happy about how Drizzt looked like a black guy. So like, well, I think they've got a bit of
he goes on, so
dissonance.
we understand what his thinking is, at least. And then he says, if the Drow are being portrayed as evil, that's a trope that has to go away. Be buried under the deepest pit and never be brought out again. I'm aware of that. I admit it. I was oblivious. So, first you have to tie a black-skinned elf with white hair to being a black person, I suppose, because I'm not sure what other race he could be talking about, possibly. And then on top of that, once you tie that together, then, since they're evil, now it's racist? I don't even know. It's very confusing. I don't know. What do you think, Venger? I know you're a big R.A. Salvatore fan.
Yeah, I loved his books growing up. That's one of the Icewind Dale trilogy is one of the things that actually got me reading, because I was never a big reader growing up. So yeah, I kind of
shocked.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Him and Lovecraft is what I started reading in, like, I don't know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and that kind of set me on the. I mean, I kind of quit reading, but for a while it set me on the path to to short stories and novels and things like that. I think that, I don't know, Drow have been portrayed artistically many different ways. In the late 80s, there were one or two covers that seemed to kind of like dive into that, oh, maybe Drow are kind of like black people, like that's cool, or something like. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. There's someone pointed it out the other day online. There's a cover of, I don't know, some Drow, Spider Queen, something adventure or campaign supplement, and all the dark elf people have sort of like a medium-ish mocha brown skin tone. And then, so if you bring that up today, it's like, oh shit. Maybe some people did think that dark elves were like black people. But in every other incarnation, besides that maybe particular period in the late 80s, it seems that the Drow either had like black, ebony black skin, and of course like white hair and things that weren't African at all, or they have like a slight purple or slight bluish or slight grayish tinge to their skin. And I mean, for the last few decades, I don't think anybody could really compare dark elves to black people. I mean, is everything black people? Because orcs, and now Drow, and what else? Like gnolls or minotaurs or mermaids? Is everything going to be compared to black people? I don't know. It's just the social justice of the times. Everything is being used to compare to race, and it's just stupid. And I don't know why Salvatore is leaning into this. Probably because he's, you know, a left-leaning Democrat, I suppose. I mean, he's not really an old school liberal. He's more of a progressive liberal, which is the bad kind of liberal. And I've talked to him publicly and privately, and that's just his position. He's comfortable with that, and I don't know. That's it.
Yeah, the next ones are going to be that gnolls are based on Latinos.
I would think the Latinos have better things to do. I would think every race would have better things to do than whine about decades-old fantasy trope that might somehow be a little bit comparison to themselves.
Well, everybody does have better things to do except the SJWs, because I roll to disbelieve that most black people think that they're connected to drow or
right.
or
most black people would be like, "What's a drow?" or "What's a drow?"
Exactly. Most black people would be.
Is this have to do Christmas? I don't get it. Is this Black Christmas? So yeah, it's a stupid non-controversy, but we cover it because social media is full of the social justice warriors that make it a big fucking deal. So that's why we talk about it and rip on it, because it should be ridiculed because it's so fucking stupid.
But we got another subscriber too. That's thank you, Super Tiano, and then a number. It went by so fast, but thanks for subscribing.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say about this topic that first of all, Ari Salvatore needs money, obviously. So he's doing all this because he needs the money. He wants to keep churning out the books, the garbage Forgotten Realms books, because they were. I mean, the first Icewind Dale trilogy was very marginally above mediocre, and everything else has been downhill from there. So it's something that he's doing now, because unlike there was this conflict with Wizards of the Coast with the creators of Dragonlance, where they wanted to make it woker. The Dragonlance people were trying to make it woker, but then they just decided, oh no, it's not good enough, so we're going to cancel it. And then they got sued, and now they're being forced to basically publish Dragonlance. Ari Salvatore saw that hassle that was going on there, and he said, "No, I'm going to go super woke, right? I'm going to go with whatever these guys want to do, and these guys want to change the drow." So, somebody pointed out here in where was that in the new canon? I can't see who said the quote, but one of our commenters just pointed out, in the new canon created by Perkins and Crawford, evil drow are a tiny minority of the drow.
Why? That's so the few black people and social justice warriors that care about that can feel like good, because
exactly. That's the only reason. Yeah.
Because the racist drow
are the social justice warriors.
That's just, oh my god, that makes it worse, doesn't it? It confirms it.
It makes it stupid.
We actually do think they're like black people. That's why we made them less evil.
Ironically, none of these monsters were ever meant to be metaphors for human beings. But in the setting, the Seattle 2021 setting of D&D, which all settings are going to be forced to become if Wizards gets their way, then every monster is really just a human in cosplay, right? And then, of course, they do become stereotypes, which is really the irony of it all. It's just ridiculous, right? SJWs are fundamentally racist, and they actually are the ones that believe, they're the only ones that actually believe that orcs are black people, right? And all that they want to do, though, is they don't want that to stop being true. What they want to do is transform the orcs into noble savages so that they can be the type of black people that they want to imagine black people to be, because the SJWs are racist. That's the fundamental truth of this. And as far as Salvatore is concerned, I'm pretty sure he acts as though he invented the drow. He did not, right? Gary Gygax invented the drow, as far as I know. And I suspect that Salvatore, which doesn't surprise me, I think he doesn't actually know the source of where the drow come from, right? Beyond D&D. The drow are based on the Doc Alfar. Right? Sorry, Venture?
That would be really embarrassing if that was true.
I think it's true, though. I think it's true that the drow are based on the Doc Alfar, right? Which are the dark or shadow elves of Norse mythology, right? That are like this duality between them and the Ljosh Alfar, the light elves, and they exist in these extraplanar worlds. The Dok Alfar are described in the ancient Norse epic poetry. They're described as blacker than pitch in color, right? That's the Drow, right? That's very clearly what the Drow are. They're not described as being African or something like that. They have nothing to do with that, because the Ljosalfar are described as more fair than the sun, right? So like they're the gold elves and the black elves, right? But not, it's not a race. They're representative of light and darkness, you know? So it's the idea that now you, instead of having something so epic as that, all you're going to make of them is into just humans in cosplay, and that somehow makes anything better. That's where where all of this falls to pieces.
Yeah, Lordful. Oh god, it went off the screen. Oh no, Lordful Mine had a good point too. He's like, all these campaign worlds have black humans in them already. Why do they need some secret, alternate monster race to represent them? You know, it's like, I don't even understand why.
Because SJWs are racist. When they think of humans, they only think of white humans, I guess. And so everything else has to be a demi-human, you know?
Now, Avenger, you actually read all the books. I tried to. I couldn't make it through the first book. The writing was just not the kind of writing I like. So, do you remember anything that could possibly be that you, as you recall, some kind of racist stereotypes or something in there?
Not at all.
Well, you were young, but
Yeah, not at all. I just remember the PCs, like the main adventurers, and it was very much like a diversity melting pot, which is cool for like a book, like a D&D book, because there's so many different things you can play or experience. There's a dwarf, and then there's a human, and then there's like a barbarian, and of course Drizzt, the dark elf. And I really like learning about the dark elf history and their society, because it just seemed like an evil version of a normal pseudo-medieval human society. And, there are demons in the book, and, all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, no, I never once thought like, oh yeah, this is like an allegory for, something to do in our world or whatever. It was just, I thought it was decent writing. I mean, I don't like Stephen King. I can't read I can't even watch a Stephen King movie based on one of his books, because I can see the crappy writing seeping through into the script, and I'm just like, it gives me, it annoys the shit out of me. So I understand, not everybody likes every author, so that's, to each his own.
All right, guys, let me reach back into the bag of cringe, because there's a little bit more in this article.
Okay.
I don't want to read this whole thing, but basically,
just one sec, Joe.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Let's look at some of the comments here, because I've got some amusing ones here. Emery Calamay says, most Sahagin actually live on the land and are found in mountainous areas. They're just stereotyped as sea devils by racist mare elves. Sadwings Raging says, Lolth, goddess of light and unicorn farts. Who said? Emery Calvey says, who says troglodytes are cave dwellers? Most live on the plains. Well, that's what we're going to get without canon. We're going to be talking more about that in a little while. All right, sorry, Joe. Sorry for interrupting, but I like some of those comments.
Back in the bag of cringe here, we got. I don't read this whole thing, but basically he says, he says, I hope young people understand that what's, and then the article, the writer says Salvatore, who is 62 years old and white, but anyway, then he goes on to say, that what you see now in the writing wasn't obvious to us back in the 70s and 80s. But now it's become very obvious. And then so then at the end he says, and now finally we're seeing it played out there in the correct way, with people saying this is bullshit, and I love it. I feel like I'm growing.
That's so stupid.
Christ.
It just seems like he's pandering, right? I
Oh
mean,
my
it
God,
doesn't
he
seem
totally
like a
is.
genuine response.
Well, he's 62-year-old white male, so he has, you know, a leg to stand on.
Well,
He just needs to.
I'm insisting. R.A. Salvatore has had a very clear track record, whatever you think of his writing, of desperately writing stuff for money. Right? And I think that's what this is all about. He knows he's a guy, he's a professional writer. You've got to give him that. He's certainly prolific. He's done a lot of books. He lives off of it. And he feels like his ongoing employability depends on him saying these things. And I think that's why he's saying it. He's also saying it because he's a boomer, but it's mainly just because he knows that if he doesn't say it, then he'll be ostracized and attacked the way other people from his generation of writers have been ostracized and attacked. So
I think the biggest takeaway from this is that we
collaborator.
know that R.A. Salvatore does not have fuck you money. Even though he had all those, I think they were New York Times bestseller books over the years, but apparently he does not have fuck you money.
Yeah, I don't know what he spends it all on, but it's
I
pretty
don't
clear.
know.
Diversity
Someone should
training.
look up what he's worth, his net worth. Oh, and someone in the comments, Charles Smith wrote R.A. struggle session.
Okay, and then he goes on to assure us in the next paragraph, nothing's being dictated to me, Salvatore said. I'm not retrofitting or retconning the drow. I'm expanding the drow. That's
right.
That's good to know. He's expanding it. He also said there's no changes are planned for any of the dozens of novels that are already written, but that probably confirms more that there's really nothing objectionable other than people saying that cosplayers that dressed as drow looked like they were in blackface to some people.
Yeah. No, I mean that's what it all comes back to, is that the SJWs are looking to remove things that are favorites of gamers, right? And they come up with these notions and then they push them. And for Salvatore to claim, oh, he's not being pushed, maybe nobody literally told him you must say this. But for the last 2 years now or more, the SJWs have been attacking the drow. So he knows which way the wind is blowing, right? And he's just doing this because he's a complete sellout. Well, we already knew he was. He'll write whatever he needs to make money.
Should we move on?
And cosplay is pretty lame anyway, says Hexelis. Thank you, Hexelis, for that one. Judd Gossick, no one is forcing me, said the hog-tied and sweating author.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got anything else to talk about related to the drow?
Not really. I mean, the bag of cringe is pretty much empty, other than, I mean, just his last sentence was, I just tried to be better.
Oh my God.
Be better. Jesus Christ.
Those are his words.
Well, there we are.
All
right. So,
his journey.
He might as well end it with, I'm ashamed of my whiteness.
Sorry?
He might as well have ended it with, I'm ashamed of my whiteness. So pathetic.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
We should probably do the shill stream now before we move on to the main event.
Avenger, what books are you apologizing for today? Just we should do it in the style of R.A. Salvatore, right? He's apologizing for all of his former work. He's essentially admitting that all his former work was evil because he says he's trying to be better.
Okay, I am currently apologizing for, Chult After Dark, the PDF is going to be in layout, is in layout now. So hopefully, tentacles crossed, like a week from now, it'll be done. I'm using the layout team that takes a little bit longer. So it's not too long. It's only like 45 pages or so. So it's a process. But I am also promoting VentureCon, which is an old school role-playing game convention next July that I'm organizing myself in Madison, Wisconsin. It's going to be primarily, old school OSR type traditional role playing games, and it's gonna be in a cool hotel. You can go to my blog, or it's also listed on tabletopevents.com. I use that to create the web page for the convention. And yeah, it should be an awesome time. It's very small, very exclusive. I'm limiting it to just 100 standard attendees. And hopefully you guys can come. And I think that's it. Although I will say, check out my blog today if you can, if you haven't already, because there's a really new cool mechanic, the Crimson Escalation, that I won't go into it now, but I think it's pretty awesome and kind of a game changer. I'm including it in the Crimson Dragon Slayer RPG, and I talk about it on my blog, and it's pretty damn cool. I finally was able to play test it today, and I talk about it there, so go check that out.
Avenger, you told me you were shilling VengerCon. That's what's on the screen for everybody.
I did.
He mentioned it.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
He said so just now.
Okay.
You were thinking about
somebody in the chat just said Venger's making his own con with hookers and blackjack. Making his own Gen Con with blackjack and hookers.
Sorry. Whenever you start talking, I just kind of zone out. I'm sorry.
Oh man, you guys
literally
are brutal.
All right.
Well, I would love to go, Venger, if you paid my plane ticket and and got me through the authorities in the U.S.
We'll see. We'll talk about that. I would like to see the RPG pundit appear at my convention. So
this is next year. Wait. This is 2022. You're doing it. It's not now. It's in a year.
Yeah, it's a year from now.
Oh well, there you go. Well, if you pay my ticket, I'll go there in a year. I'll probably be able to get into the country at that point.
I would hope so. How much is a ticket from Uruguay to the States?
I don't know. It's it's almost impossible to know now because the prices could be totally different once regular flights start being reestablished.
Would you mind flying in the cargo section?
The cargo section. I'm more used to first class, but we can figure out a compromise.
When it gets closer, if people actually sign up and attend the convention, I will talk to Pundit about getting him over there. So we'll see what we can do to entice him.
All right, we'll see. We'll see what'll happen.
Okay.
It's nice that it's happening in July when it's summer over there.
Oh yeah, it's 80 degrees, sunshiny. It's good.
All right then. Before we continue with the shilling, Rob Couture asked one important question regarding the drow thing. He said, "So who are going to be the big bad guys in 5e if none of the races are inherently evil?" I believe the answer is going to be capitalism and Trump voters. Those will be the bad guys in 5e from now on. Anyway, whose turn is it now, Job? Yours or mine?
You. Up.
Okay. Well, I am currently promoting, of course, the Invisible College, which is doing really, really well. So it come up on the screen there because I can't see the screen from here.
Yeah, the Invisible College is up.
Oh, okay. Why isn't it showing up for me here?
Maybe
I wonder if I'm behind. Maybe. I don't know. All right. Anyway, it'll catch up. All right. So it's the Invisible College. There it is now. Yeah. Authentic Magic OSR conspiracy role playing. That's actually an old logo you've got there, Joe, because in the end it wasn't Borderman Games that published it. It was Well of Word Press. But anyway.
Ooh, sorry about that. I just was the first logo that showed up.
Oh, hey, we got a super chat. Xplant X donated.
Thank you, Xplant X.
Super chat. Oh, thank you so much.
RPG Pundit,
he says, he's got a comment with it. Yeah, he says, RPG Pundit, start a GoFundMe for your travel. Well, I think if I'm going to Benjer's thing, Benjer should be the one to start the GoFundMe, but that's a very good point anyway. So the Invisible College has now finally come out It came out in drive-through. First, they only had the PDF. Then after a lot of hassle, they finally released the soft covers on drive-through. And now they finally have the hardcover. You have the standard color hardcover for $50, the premium color hardcover for $88. So those of you that have been holding out to get the hardcover, now is your chance to get it. Incidentally, Invisible College is now a silver bestseller. It's been on the top 10 list of the OSR products for drive-through for quite a long time now. Well, pretty much since it came out. And it's doing really, really well. I've loved hearing from people who've already been running it and been posting about it and stuff like that. It's great stuff. So if you haven't looked into it yet, it's 432 pages of occult modern conspiracy role-playing with magic that is based. It's not D&D type magic. It's like based on modern hermetic magic ideas. It's got secret societies that are based on real historical or sometimes modern secret societies. And yeah, it's very cool. A lot of stuff you can do for it. So be sure to take a look at that. And while you're at it, of course, check out my other games, Lion and Dragon, Arrows of Indra, Star Adventure, The Old School Companion, Dark Albion, and all of my RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. As always, if you don't have the money to buy one of my big products, but you want to support me, you can always pick up one of the RPG Pundit PDFs. They range from 99 cents to $4.99, and whatever they are, you're going to find something there out of the 105 issues of the series that you'll be able to use in your campaign. And if you haven't bought Invisible College yet, or if you have bought it because you were in too much of a hurry to get it, to wait for the hardcover, well, you can also buy the hardcover, right? And then you have one for your bookshelf and the other one that you use to play with. And I guess that's it for me. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, thanks, Pundit. Okay, so what's going on is the Book of Antitheses has still not gone to the printers yet. The printer has now changed the glory hole that's cut in the cover, the position and the dimensions of it twice. So last I heard that the glory hole needs to be re-engineered before it goes off to the printer.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm shilling also the I still have about hey, Jonathan Hilton, thanks for subscribing, appreciate it. I'm still selling Into the Demon Idol. I've got I think about 30 copies left. These are the last 30 copies of the system neutral version. So I'll probably re-release this for Brutal Blades when that comes out. I'm still working on trying to get that out, the playtest version out. I'm gonna get a lower cost playtest version that's like 3 or 4 levels before I do the full version. Hopefully, with a wider play group, that maybe some more issues might end up bound into a giant book. And that's about it. Oh, I think we're ready to go on to our next topic, which is Adventure.
Sandy Peterson.
All right.
So, all right, we were supposed to have Sandy Peterson on here tonight. It would have been lovely to hear about, his, like we did with Jim Ward and like we did with Bruce Hurd. You should take a look at those interviews in our last couple of episodes. We were talking with both of them about their role in the origin, the early period of RPGs, and it was great stuff. And of course, we would have also given Sandy Peterson the chance to address his views about, the ridiculous assault on him by SJWs. For those of you that maybe have not heard about this yet, I'll tell you the basic story, assuming my co-hosts are.
Before you do that, I'll just put the tweet on the screen so people can read his actual words. What he said.
Then I don't have to write about it.
It's literally his whole statement on the matter.
Yeah. So he made a comment that, remember, Peterson's in his 60s. He's a boomer. He probably didn't realize how controversial this was. He probably thought in his head, oh, this is, this could be a clever solution, a kind of nerdy solution to a problem, right? And And so he said, why don't we have people compete by gene, by XY or XX chromosome, I think is what he was meant to say.
Oh, yeah, he did say
gene.
that too. I forgot that part.
Yeah, he said, why don't we divide sports by XX and XY chromosomes? He said genome, but he meant chromosomes, in order to compete, because that would be a better way to do it than dividing it by pronoun, right? And of course, he got shitloads of attacks from all the gaming SJWs. And he posted a response to himself there, just trying to defend himself. He said, well, I just want my granddaughters to be able to compete. Is that wrong? The answer on Twitter is yes, that is wrong, right? That's what the Twitter SJWs believe. They think that if you think that your granddaughters should have a chance of winning a medal against somebody who is an adult male athlete that has, or a near adult male athlete that has stronger bone density, but has now, transitioned into a woman, then you are wrong, And of course, it's this isn't even an argument. They always try to present it as an argument about trans rights, but that's not what it is. This is just an argument about reality, right? Like, you can be in favor of all kinds of trans rights, and you can recognize that there is a problem, right, with this situation. That there is a situation that it doesn't matter what you do, there is a certain unfairness, but that doesn't change the reality of the situation, right? The reality is that if you have someone who has transitioned from male to female, they're not really going to be able to, or probably comfortable with, competing in a male in the male category of the sport. But competing in the female category of the sport does continue to give them an unfair advantage, right? Unless they transitioned before puberty. Unless they were given hormones before puberty, which, as far as I know, is not something that's done. At least that's what they keep claiming, that isn't done. There's no way that it's going to be equal. Maybe in the future it will be, but right now it isn't. And so it's a reasonable idea, right? It's not something that we have to discuss in a humane way. And I don't think, Peterson clearly didn't say anything there that implied that he hated trans people or something like that. He was just commenting as a grandpa, I guess. But of course, everybody went after him. They attacked him. They found another tweet of his where he was responding to some article. I forget on what website that article was published, but it was an article that claimed that basically all board games and war games and strategy games that are based on colonialism need to be abolished, including stuff like Puerto Rico and Settlers of Catan and stuff like that, because that's colonialism, right? And he was responding saying, I'm not oppressing anyone when I play Puerto Rico. He said something like that. And of course, they jumped on that, and they basically have been attacking him for the entire week. Just massive engagement. Now, Peterson actually didn't back down. He reacted by becoming more based, which was excellent, right? Like, good for him. And it looked like he was going to be somebody that was going to stand up for himself and for the hobby, and that's awesome. Except that I think that some of his friends, either some of his friends at Chaosium or some family members or somebody, freaked out, and they hired some kind of PR person for him, and that PR person is now giving him awful advice. And that PR person also clearly knows nothing about the RPG hobby. He knows nothing about the current situation. He knows nothing about what's an effective tactic to use against the SJWs. And he certainly doesn't know enough about the hobby to give good advice. Good advice would have been, you can be on this show. This is a show where you're going to draw a bunch of people to your defense and that will support your position, and where you're going to be able to make a strong statement about what are your views in a fair environment where nobody's going to be like trying to trick you into some kind of a confession or something like that. But that's not what happened. What happened is probably this consultant who knows nothing about this hobby said, "Oh, he's going to be on this show. Oh, I better look it up." And then he looks it up, and I don't know. He looks up something that says, Venture Satanis is an evil bigot, and RPG Pundit is a homophobe or something like that. And I said, "Oh, no, you can't go on there, Sandy. You can't go on there." And Sandy listened to them, which was a big mistake, especially because the same guy obviously wasn't knowledgeable enough to stop Sandy Peterson from talking on Twitter with Varg Vikernes, a literal neo-Nazi who was also a literal convicted murderer and church burner, right? That as soon as there was any controversy, like, one thing you got to give Varg Vikernes, he's really good at trying to show up and appropriate himself of controversy to make himself look like he's just another right-winger when he's actually not. He's scum, right? But he went onto Peterson's Twitter feed, found some tweets about homeschooling, made some comments that none of the comments were like, I hate the Jews or something like that. His comments acted as though he was just saying, well, yeah, I believe in that we should be able to have the right to homeschool. So, he said stuff that sounded generally conservative and not actually ethno-nationalist maniac like he is, right? And in the process, Peterson responded. So now a bunch of SJWs saw that and they said, look at this. Peterson is friends with Varg Vikernes, creator of My Frog, well-known racist and convicted murderer, And so that did him enormous harm, right? Because everybody hates Varg Vikernes. And yet his consultant wasn't able to warn him about that, right? Because his consultant doesn't know who Venture Satanis is. He doesn't know who RPG Pundit is, and he doesn't know who Varg Vikernes is. And Varg Vikernes has a much lower profile. He's less famous than Mir Venger. So the guy that was actually dangerous was the guy that the consultant didn't even see, And this tells me that basically Sandy is being very, very badly given very bad advice. He's being very badly assessed, by this whoever it is that they've gotten to talk to him. And it's a real pity because I think it would have been good for him for sure, and it would have been very good for the hobby if he had been able to keep up with this fight. So I guess that's what I have to say about that. I'm very disappointed at him for letting himself get manipulated by some kind of a fake expert who doesn't know what he's doing and is only going to not make any of his problems go away. Comments from the rest of you?
I don't know. I don't think it's bad that he didn't want to show up. Honestly, for my part, if he wants to do the show a little later, I don't really care till the heat dies down, I guess, on him. He's got a big name, so people are going to constantly try to take. This is the way all these like social justice people push their shit, is they attack people with big names. Like, they don't really give a crap about any of us, but him, he's huge. He's just going to be assaulted constantly by these people. So unless he's
they give a crap. I'm sorry, Joe, but they give a crap about me. I'm being constantly assaulted and doxxed by these people.
Well, so. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you do get a lot of heat. But it's different than what Sandy Peterson gets. You know what I mean? Like, Sandy Peterson is someone that they can twist because he's got a lot of reach outside of the RPG hobby, into video games and to other areas of culture.
They're trying to use him as a big fish to take down.
Exactly. So that's why I'm just saying, like, he's in a different class. So I respect the guy for not wanting to do it.
Yeah,
I hope he does it later, even though after we're kind of trashing him on the show.
But we need people of that class, people that are that level of fame, to stand up to these totalitarian bastards, right? Like, if they don't, if none of them do it, if they all bow down, then we're just going to keep encouraging the SJWs to keep pushing their Stalinism and keep trying to impose their gulag mentality on the hobby.
I agree with you. I just think everyone has free will, and he made the decision that he doesn't want to do that, and I can respect that.
Right.
Well, I can accept it, but I'm not sure I respect it.
Rob Couture mentioned that the day after Sandy made his comments on Twitter, Chaosium subtweeted him with an inclusion statement. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did see it.
But-
Yeah, they said like
Yeah,
trans
it was
women
like,
are,
oh,
are
but
women, and yeah,
we're inclusive and diversity and it's all good, and just trying to smooth things over, which I guess I can understand, but
oh yeah, Rob just
Alex,
put it
can't
in
give
there.
in to these people, or else
Sorry.
they just
Can I
take
comment
away.
something from the live chat here? A very
Yeah,
good
yeah.
point. Alexander Welch says normal trans people hate this propaganda. Watch Smudcast Wisp points this out. I'm not sure who Smudcast Wisp is, but I can tell you guys something.
I'm gonna write that
I have,
down.
in the last few months, I have had a number of LGBT and trans people in the gaming hobby, including a couple of whom are designers, that have been like semi-privately or secretly talking to me, expressing that they don't, that they're sick of this shit too, right? That they really don't like the woke agenda and cancel culture. And they especially don't like that a group of people have appropriated their name to do a power grab that only benefits them, right? It doesn't benefit, it's not really benefiting trans people. It's benefiting this little in-group of people based in Seattle and Portland and San Francisco that get to have all this power by using by waving the banner of people of color and LGBT people, that many of whom do not agree with them and have no, they have no support for what they're claiming. Anyway, carry on.
I just want to call it, Rob Couture posted the Chaosium tweet. It was, trans women are women, trans men are men, and you are the only one that gets to determine your gender and sexuality. Chaosium fully supports inclusivity and diversity. # we are all of us. We are all us. Sorry. So,
You gonna survive there, pundit?
Yeah, it's not the coof. It's just I swallowed some tobacco.
Ah, yes.
oh man.
Damn it. That's what happens when I smoke, when I rant while smoking a pipe.
Yeah, you can smoke or you can rant, but it's hard to do both. At the
That's
same
right. I
time.
shouldn't do both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I hope what comes to Sandy Peterson doesn't escalate into something where they try to do a full cancellation. I don't think it will, because
Well, they're going to try.
That extreme. I mean, even a lot of Democrats and left-leaning people agree that that trans athletes shouldn't be competing along with in a girls or boys sport, especially in high school or middle school, or maybe even the college level. I mean, that's pretty controversial. Just for normal Democrats and liberals. I mean, so I don't think Sandy's going to get blasted that hard for that. I mean, the Varg stuff doesn't help, but I'm
We'll see if
surprised
the
that
tactic
they
works or not, right?
murderer and racist at the same, because usually if you murder someone, that's kind of bad, but not really. But if you're a racist, that's the end of the line. You just got to go. Being a racist, as I've heard on, I think Michael Noel talks about this on his podcast on the Daily Wire, is that if you're called a racist, that's the worst thing that you can call someone in America today, calling them a racist. So that's our culture. It's going to change eventually, but right now we're stuck with it. So,
well,
I can't remember
SJWs are going to try. They're going to try to keep canceling him, but they're not. I don't know if they're going to be able to succeed because he has his own company. So.
right.
But they're never going to let it rest, and so him just trying to hide.
Right.
I mean, he
They're never
hasn't
gonna stop.
apologized. At least I'll grant him that he's not jumping in and trying to he's not trying to appease them yet. That's something.
Right. Yeah. He hasn't
because it would be
deleted his
really,
tweets.
really stupid if he tried that, obviously.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, maybe he's making the right call. We'll watch and monitor the situation, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna bring up something before, but we were kind of talking over each other. I don't remember exactly where I read it, but I read something that gay and you know, umbrella term is, but acceptance has like gone down for the first time in decades, like in the last couple years. And I think it's all like directly attributable to, you know, a lot of this like transgendered kind of activism. Especially
Yeah, no, that's true. There have been multiple studies that have shown that in the last few years, the public acceptance of LGBT people has dropped rather than gotten bigger. And I mean, there's no question of why. I mean, it's because of the politicization of LGBT in favor of Marxism, you know, and and the woke agenda, you know. So it's done nothing but harm to normal LGBT people who just want to get along, you know, want to be part of the normal world. They're being terribly attacked, and it's harming the perspective of them among regular people.
I don't know. It seems to me like, I mean, the ideology behind it really is it's kind of like dissolves being gay, like, or being, you know, being a lesbian. You know what I mean?
And being a woman or a man.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
I mean, as a man,
category.
we don't really care, like, who wants to claim that they're a man or not a man. I mean, it doesn't really bother us. But women get all, not every women obviously, but a lot of women are pissed off that they're being diminished somehow, or I don't know. I mean, the woman experience is not as authentic. I don't know. I don't really know a lot about it, but I know that a lot of women are pissed. And they come up with the whole, was that TERF thing, the trans exclusionary feminist. I mean, I don't even buy into feminism. So
You're just a
it's gonna
TE.
be on me, I
Is
guess.
that what you're telling us, Benjer?
What's that?
I say you're just a TE. You're not a TERF. You're just a TE.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't want to exclude them from society or anything. I mean, if you want to do that and go through all that trouble and you're an adult, then okay, that's your prerogative, I guess. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can just like compete in the other gender sports, or, you know, doesn't mean you get more rights than the rest of us just because you're an extreme minority, or just because someplace your people are being oppressed. Doesn't mean that, you know, you get more rights than anybody else.
Yeah. I don't know what this woman I used to work with. She was a lesbian. I lost touch with her, but she's about the same age as me. And apparently, I talked to one of my old friends the other day, and he was like, yeah, she's totally she's trans. I don't even remember what he said. She's some kind of trans something now, and you know, she lived her life as a lesbian until she was at least 40. So all of a sudden, you know, I mean, I have my own ideas about it. She's a fucking horn dog. I'm sure she's just like adapting to get the youngest chick she can, and they're all fucking saying they're transgendered now. But I don't know. I mean, I think gay people are a real thing, and it seems like this gender like ideology is kind of like just dissolving the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got to throw in my opinion here. I'm a historian, right? And from my point of view, it's very clear that, you know, biological sex is obviously a real thing. But biological sex is really unrelated not completely unrelated, because there are obviously some traits that are biological that have an impact on social behavior, right? That you could say that there are some traits that are that are more associated with biological masculinity and biological femininity to a very certain extent, right? But gender, the problem we have in our society, which is something that's common in every society, the only difference is that in our society, this has changed within our lifetime of, the definitions have changed within our lifetime, is that our society imagines gender to be a concrete thing. It's very funny because if somebody had been born around the mid 20th century and is still alive today, they went through in their own lifetime a period where there was this concept that gender is a very fixed thing, and there is male gender and female gender, and there's a behavior in those genders, to a period like by the 1970s and early 80s where people were saying, well, gender isn't really that fixed, and it doesn't really matter because you can have, the idea that a woman has to behave in the 1950s feminine way is wrong, and that a man has to behave in the masculine 1950s way is wrong. And then all the way back to suddenly saying, no, gender is a really fixed thing that is immutable and true. It's just that there's 50 of them, right? There's 50 genders now, right? And if you're a historian and you look at all the cultures in world history, they do not have the same common gender qualities. There are a few things that are roughly immutable that are very biological, but the idea of, I pointed out in Arrows of Indra, right? In Arrows of Indra, there are 3 genders because there were 3 genders at the time of the Bharata Kingdom, in the historical period that the Arrows of Indra is set. And in many other cultures, there were malleable concepts of gender, and there were concepts of gender that were different, like in terms of gender roles, things that today we would attribute as feminine. Let's say if you're a conservative traditionalist and say masculine and feminine gender roles, like from the 1950s, there are things that we would have thought of as feminine behaviors or feminine activities that to the Vikings, who nobody thinks of as sissies or something like that, would have been a masculine activity, and sometimes vice versa, right? In the Roman Empire, it was believed that it was a feminine activity, a feminine gender trait to be good with money, right, and to be handling money properly, right, and to the point that if you were a Roman man, it was your wife who handled all the finances and gave you an allowance like you were a child, right? So these are, the idea that gender roles are something immutable is that it doesn't make any sense to me at all when I look at the history of human societies. But the problem is that we've actually we were at one point kind of getting closer to that idea where, you could be a man who has a lot of qualities that from the point of view of 1950s gender roles were feminine, but that doesn't matter anymore. To now suddenly, if you're a man that has some of those qualities, you must be transgendered, and that's, I think, a backward step in a way,
Yeah, well,
now I think that people want, if somebody wants to identify as a different gender, everybody has an absolute right over their body and their selves. That's completely okay, and I will completely respect and honor that. I don't care, right? Because it's perfectly fine. Everybody has a right to be themselves, however they want to be. The problem here, especially when you're talking about the sports thing, is that there are some very, very real logistical issues about it at this point, and we don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix it. But to pretend that there is no issue is just stupid.
Yeah. Well, historically, can you think of any cultures that had more than even 3 genders? There's I know what was in India, like Hijra, and then like Bafafingay and Samoa, and
well, there were some cultures that had kind of multiple classes of intergender behavior, right? But generally it was. I guess you could have generally defined it as man, woman, and in between, right? But there were like traditions. I think in Persia there were traditions, and in some of the other, I think even in some Native American tribes and things like that, there are traditions of where a man could just become a woman, right, and would be treated as though they were a woman gender in that triad. And then there were also people that were in between, right? So you had that in different places, and in some cultures where, in particular, where probably war usually caused a large scale decline in the male population, you would have some women that would basically become men, and so like, again, gender, there are, I'm not saying there are no traits that are biological that are tied to gender roles. There are some very broad ones, and most of those have to do with stuff like reproduction or just the physical differences between men and women, but a lot of the stuff that we have is just entirely cultural, right? The idea that, a woman wears a dress, and wears makeup, that's something that in the 1950s people said, yeah, no man will wear a dress or makeup, right? But in a whole bunch of cultures, men wore dresses and makeup, including some fairly masculine cultures, in terms of like what we remember them as,
Yeah. Personally, I mean, I think this whole fucking, I don't know, zeitgeist is doomed to fail. I mean, I just don't think the average intelligence of people is there to support these many kind of classifications for dealing with people in daily life. You know what I mean?
That's where it becomes stupid, right? The idea that you're defining these tiny little subclasses like they were prestige classes of a role-playing game, like it's all a LARP, right?
Right.
That those are the necessity to pinpoint something to that extent is silly, right? Because like, why would it matter? Why do we have to give a special name to something and then define it as that,
I mean, like,
I'm saying if anything, we should try to broaden our definitions of masculinity and femininity, and also allow for people to define themselves as in between, right? If that's what they want. But I mean, a lot of trans people do not want to do that, right? That's one of the big conflicts they have with the SJWs. A lot of trans women just want to be women. They don't want to be all about their transness, right? They just want to be women, right? If you're gender dysphoric, you want to be the opposite gender. You don't want to necessarily be stuck forever as some in-between special category for the sake of a bunch of communists,
Right. Those are the transgendered boomers, right? The transsexuals.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that that's still the case for a lot of people,
Yeah. I don't know. My whole thing is I know this is doomed to fail because I don't think, in the US at least, what, 50% of people have below a 98 IQ? Like, that's 100 and whatever, 60 million people or 70 million people. Those people are going to have a hard time ever keeping any of this crap straight.
Yes.
I mean, just like, I mean, I don't
well,
tell
that's
kids,
exactly
or
part
some
of
of
the
my
problem.
kids already are like, tell me I got to remember different pronouns and change them and shit. And I'm just
the need to create new categories and new language is a political need. It's nothing to do with making anybody's life better. In fact, it's just to create divisions.
And obfuscate reality, because communication is for making. I mean, language for communicating better and to make things more clear and more precise. But with all this new language and like the pronouns and all this other stuff, it's just making it more confusing. So it's doing the opposite of what language and communication should do. So I also believe it's doomed to failure. And I'm just waiting out the clock anytime now. The pendulum can swing the other way and we can get back to normalcy. And actually, having said that, it is my time to go. So I'll bid you guys a good night.
Guys.
Everybody, thanks for watching the show. It's been real. Hopefully we'll get a good guest on maybe next month. We'll see.
Let's see.
All right, see you, Bench.
All right,
I would love to find an LGBT game designer that would be brave enough to come on this show. If you're one of them, get in touch. We would love to have you here. All right, guys, and remember, if you want to Make sure that Venture can stay up past his bedtime. Be sure to support us on our Patreon. The more Patreon bucks we get, the longer Venture is allowed to stay up at night. I really don't understand. I just had some SJWs accusing me of not being a real Latino, and then I get on here and Venture's putting his kids to sleep at like 7:30, and I'm like, what the hell? You gringos are crazy, like who puts kids to bed at 7:30 at night,
Yeah, my kids go to bed at like 2 o'clock at night in the summer. The summer too. What, is kids in summer school?
I don't know.
Maybe he's got young kids.
So, no, I know this is true, right? Because I lived for many years in Canada, and there people would take their kids to bed early. They'd eat supper at 5. I'm like, what the hell, Supper at 5.
Well, we're out of topics. Do you want to? Did you have something else you wanted to talk about?
Well, we were going to talk a little bit, I guess, about the how Wizards of the Coast has now announced via a couple of comments from Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins that they have declared that all D&D content prior to 2014 is, I quote, no longer canon, because there was some kind of a canon ever, and of course they're trying to do this. I've talked a lot about this on my videos, so those of you who have seen my last couple of videos have seen that I've talked about this subject. I think that they're doing it for a few reasons, and one of them probably ties into the R.A. Salvatore thing, right? Is that part of this means that that future novel products that they're doing, because they're now kind of getting back into novels. They weren't for a while, but now obviously they are. They're doing a new Drizzt novel, and they're doing they're going to publish the Dragonlance stuff, and what they want is to basically be able to say we can shit all over whatever was written before, right? We don't want to acknowledge that. And the second thing I think that they're doing, obviously, is one of the reasons is just to kind of like push the SJW agenda in general, right? Because essentially they've already decided that nothing is canon. You could see that when they came out with Ravenloft, their version of Ravenloft, woke Ravenloft. But I think another big reason is that this is part of the setup. I think that they're aiming to create some new edition of D&D, which might not be called 6th edition. It might, in fact, just be called D&D. They might just claim that they've just updated the rules and where they're going to make a bunch of changes to make it more woke, and that part of this is going to involve getting rid of all the stuff that they didn't like, claiming, well, it's not canon, right? Like this is their kind of their philosophical justification for being able to do whatever they want with the product. Any thoughts on that?
I honestly, I just can't even, be bothered to give a crap about anything that comes out of Crawford or Perkins's mouth or anything out of 5e, really. These are the same guys who just like their idea of a campaign setting is to just blow up the fucking world, right?
Yeah.
In 4e, they're like, the spell plague, we're gonna blow up Forgotten Realms, and everything is like, yeah, and then we're gonna blow it up. Like, I
think the thing is though that there never really was a canon for like D&D as a setting concept. Like what they're trying to do is they're just following the same SJW playbook for stuff like Star Wars and Doctor Who and Marvel Comics and stuff like that. But the difference is those are, I guess you could call them literary works, right? D&D isn't that. D&D has no canon. D&D is what you decide to make with it. So the idea that they're going to just try to like remake stuff and claim that is now a canon, because of course they're saying nothing before 2014 was canon. What they are saying is what we're doing now is the canon and you have to follow it, right? Which is bullshit, If anything was a canon, I guess you could say that the original products by Gygax was a canon, but even that isn't really true.
I don't know about you, but it seems on Twitter that like the last, I don't know, I would say about 5 to 6 months, like I've just seen more and more people that are just like, this is stupid. I hate all this crap. I'm going to make my own game.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's
It's
been
great to see.
I've seen a huge increase in pushback, and like I commented earlier, I've seen a big increase in pushback from people whose personal demographics are the ones that SJWs claim to be representing and acting on behalf of. So I think that is a very good sign. Comments on the chat here. Indigo Dragon says Strixhaven is Seattle 2021 in fantasy. Well, yeah, it is. It's just ridiculous. I did a video about that on my channel. It's just what a fucking stupid setting, And of course, the obsession with the prom. SJWs are constantly obsessed with the prom. You see that on every TV show and every every comic book, and now even in D&D. D&D has its own product with a prom.
Terran says Strixhaven is freaking Magic the Gathering Hogwarts. Totally.
Yeah, sort of, but more woke, obviously.
Yeah, I guess people should start pointing out that it's Hogwarts
really
and that
up. Sorry,
J.K. Rowling is a transphobe TERF.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think it really screwed up the SJWs when J.K. Rowling became an enemy to them, right? Because it was the only language they had, right? Because before that, anytime that they said anything that involved a metaphor, it was from Harry Potter.
Right,
and now, of course, J.K. Rowling is a transphobe, and they don't even have that anymore, So like they're completely lost. Oh wow! Did we just get a?
Holy crap!
What is
Bluff
that? Is that $20 or is that 20 something else? Because there's an R in front of it. Is that rand or?
It's probably
where
peso,
are you from,
so.
Bluff? What is that? Is that rupees or rand or what is it?
I don't care. It's something, and I'm going to thank this man.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you so much.
And he says they will probably call it D&D Evolved or Reborn or something like that. Yeah, you're probably right. It's time to walk away from that permanently and go to greener pastures of indie RPG creations. Well, absolutely. That's why you guys have to keep supporting the OSR. The OSR
and thirsty sword lesbians.
Yeah, well, there are SJWs in the OSR, but most of the OSR, one way or the other, it's the avant-garde of indie products nowadays, and there's a whole bunch of us in the OSR that have no interest in politicizing our games, myself included. So that's where you got to spend your money. Don't give your money to people that hate you and hate the game you love, Alexander Welch says, SJWs can never handle the fact that their life did not hold up to what was promised in TVs and movies about how special and world-changing school and high school would be for them. Yeah, well, that's true. It could be rubles, yeah. Oh, reals. Hey, Vlepis, a Brazilian, my neighbor. Hey, how's it going? Glad to see there's a lot of based Brazilians and based Uruguayans, we're the two conservative countries now, which is funny because both of them used to have socialist governments, and then we wizened up, So good stuff.
Okay, I want to respond to Judd Goswick. He asked me a couple of things. So Judd, if you want bone casting for Game Masters, I think I have all the components around to put one together. So email me at orders@bloodyhammergames.com, and I can we can talk about it there. I don't have a bunch pre-made and stuff like I do with Into the Demon Idol. And then I mentioned Brutal Blades earlier. I'm still working on it. Really what I'm shooting for is before GaryCon is to try to get the printed version of the playtest rules.
We just got another super chat from Emery Kalame. I hope I'm saying that right. Who says, "Long live Sahuagin, the mountain people who need to stay damp." Well, thank you very much. Way to pour one out there for the Sahuagin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emery. Oh, and we got Matthew Murdoch just subscribed as well. We're getting a lot of subscribers on the stream. This is probably a high point for subscribers during this episode.
Awesome, that's great to see. Yeah, we're quite happy about that. We're building up the subscribers. Oh, a note to to people that, I mean, if you're not subscribed to the RPG Pundits YouTube channel, please go and subscribe now. We're getting really, really close now to hitting the 4,000 subscriber mark. We got 51 subscribers to go, and then I'll have to do a 4,000 subscriber live stream there. So be sure to check out my channel and subscribe if you haven't already.
Pundit puts out a lot of one or two of his own videos between these monthly live streams. When are we doing our next show anyway, Pundit? It's going to be in 2 weeks, right? Could that put us back on the normal schedule, or?
Well, I don't know about that. I was thinking in 4, but.
Oh, okay, we'll talk about it.
22nd. I was thinking on 15, the 29th of August.
29th. Okay. I'll be back by then.
You'll be back by then? All right. Well,
yeah,
we'll see.
I'm taking a week off to go to the lake with the kids.
29th of August. And I put out a new video about every 5 days or so. So I put in a lot of videos in between the Inappropriate Characters episodes. But yeah. So any other comments here from the chat? Anything else we should talk about today?
Yeah, we're opening up to the floor. If you guys want to talk about something, bring it up now, or else wait for another month.
Questions or comments? Malachi's Mercurial Musing says, don't forget about Venger's YouTube channel. Well, yeah, I always forget about Venger's YouTube channel. But
yeah, the links to all the other people's channels are in the show notes, people. So if you want to check out Venger and RPG Pundits, I don't have one now.
All of it's in the description. Yeah.
I've been working on one for an idea for one. Hopefully I'll get the time to do it. I'm just so busy.
Actually, wait, why do you have, I'm just looking at the description here of this live stream. You have my blog, but you don't have my YouTube channel.
What? I don't?
No, you have Venger's blog, Pundit's blog, Venger's channel, and the RPG site. You don't have my YouTube channel. Wait, you're going to have to add that on.
Oh,
man.
Okay, yeah. I'll go back and edit them all.
Oh, another super chat from Sad Wings Raging, $30. Don't tell Venger I donated this. Keep up the good fight, gentlemen. Okay, we'll keep this a secret from Venger. Oh, actually, that might be hard because I think Venger's the one. Well, no, Venger's the one that handles the Patreon, but I think, Job, you're the one that's handling the super chats, right?
Yeah, I'm handling all that. Right.
Well, thank you very much, Sad Wings. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Long time listener, and I always like reading your comments on the live stream, live chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyone got any other questions? Oh yeah, Judd Goswick is asking, what about your site, Job? Do you have a website, Job?
You can go there. It's just under maintenance. It's bloodyhammergames.com, but it's not set up. I'm not good at this marketing myself and getting time to do anything. Honestly, I'm always doing something. I need to get it going.
Fair enough. Before we close up, I guess I can talk about there's a couple of things that are coming down the pipeline for me if people are interested in knowing about my my upcoming projects. I can tell you that Spectre Press is currently working on, but I have no idea when it'll come out. It might not even come out until like the end of the year or early next year. The next old school companion compilation, which is, I think, going to be a compilation of the medieval authentic adventures. So that's something to look forward to. And also, I am currently working on, and at a fairly good pace, but I still don't even have a publisher for it yet. But I like to write the first draft of a book before I even look for a publisher. That way, I've got it all set up. I'm working on a new source book for Lion and Dragon that is usable for any OSR setting, that is going to be based on the Third Crusade and the Silk Road. So that'll be something for everybody who kept asking me for a Crusades book. Well, you're going to get it, but you're also going to get a whole outline of what the Silk Road was like in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. Which is really fascinating, like some of the biggest cities in the world were there. and they're cities we don't even know exists anymore because of a certain Mongol, chief that destroyed them all later. So yeah, it'll be a big product. It'll be pretty good, I think.
We got another
Dracopol
one,
just gave
Pundit.
us $5 Canadian. Thank you, Dracopol. Keep on laughing at the contradictions of SJWs, like transsexuals also claim to be non-binary. They are questing for the binary, he says. All right.
And has logic.
I mean, non-binary would be something that would make sense as an overall category of gender that isn't male or female, right?
Right. So the third.
Yeah. Well,
All others can be folded into, and then we're done. We don't care.
yeah, because I mean, everything else just like eventually, what are you going to do? You're going to is everyone who doesn't strictly identify as male and female just going to have to have their own specific subcategory to define their particular way of interpreting things? Because that's where the logic of this system goes to. You know, like it's
Well, every single individual is going to be a gender. We're going to push the Western mind.
There's a much easier way of doing this, guys, that is completely inclusive to everyone. You know, like just figure that out and realize that you're being manipulated. You know. Ronald Pitt says, glad to see you guys are pushing back on the SJWs that are trying to destroy the games we grew up with and love. Keep up the fight, guys. It is appreciated. Well, thank you, Ronald. We can't do it without you guys, though. So be sure to, share our videos and subscribe and we need everybody to stand up to these guys. And I'm really glad to see that more people are,
Yeah. No, this is making me feel really good about the future of this. And, people are finally fed up with this, and this is, for me, this was, before I was on this show, I was a fan of the show. I was watching you guys since, when did you start? 2017? 2018?
I think so. No.
It was 2017.
I think it was 2017. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Yeah, I was even a guest way back when with Grimasaur.
That's right. That's right.
Jim. And so I've been, a fan of the show forever, and because I, just like everyone here, I think in the live chat, I've just wanted to push back on this stuff because I want gaming to be gaming and escapism, I don't want socialism or just group think pushed down to every part of my life.
Yeah, that's very understandable. We've got Charlotte Williams says, I wouldn't mind playing a Templar in Lion and Dragon. Well, in a way, Lion and Dragon has always had the clerics who are meant to be like a cross between Templars and Saints or something like that. But in this book that I'm working on, the Silk Road book, you could literally play a Templar. A Templar's would just be a knight, right? But of a specific order of knights. But they will be there. I mean, they were in the Third Crusade, right? And then Sadwings Raging says, Silk Road wouldn't stretch all the way to Spain, would it? Well, in this case, the source book will cover the Silk Road from Acre to Lanzhou, to the, from the, the Middle East to the gateway into China. That's the area. And it's a huge area, right? Like that's something that could take years to travel through. So yeah, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of territory there.
Juan Cholo says, are cosmic horrors non-binary? I would imagine so. Did you miss this one from Indigo Dragon? He said, is the hardcover for Invisible College available?
Yeah, Indigo, you must have gotten here a little late, but yes, I said this already earlier, on Drive-Thru RPG, you can now get, finally, there's no explanation why it took so long, but there we are. You can now get the Invisible College in hardcover, color, regular color, I guess it would be, and in premium color. And so you can buy it in standard color hardcover for $50 or premium color hardcover for $88. And you can get that right now if you want to.
Hexella said he's going to be running Tower. He's reading Towers 2. He's going to run it next week. So hopefully, email me at orders or brutal@bloodyhammergames.com if you want to tell me about it, Hexellis, because Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. I wrote that because I wanted, well, other than finishing the posthumously a book written by the lead singer of Guar, um, I wanted to make the most uh, offensive D&D adventure that had ever been written. Um, so I don't know. Tell me if I accomplished my goal or not.
Sadwings Raging says I was thinking of like El Cid. Well, it's not going to be in this book, but maybe someday I'll do a book about Spain around the time of El Cid, El Campeador as they called him. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I guess that we're pretty much done unless someone else has anything. Oh, Tarantula says, I'm using Lion and Dragon as the basis for my own setting, aiming for medieval authentic with some twists of my own, thinking Aztec Chaos Warriors. Well, that's great. I mean, unlike Wizards, I do not believe there is a canon to my work, right? So you can take any of my stuff and use it any way you want to and mix it with other OSR stuff. I always try to make all my stuff as OSR compatible as possible so people can take the stuff, take the setting stuff, take the mechanics, and port them into their own games and their own settings and make their own campaigns of it in whatever way they want to, right? I believe in the primacy of the DM, not the game designer. Because I don't need to control you guys.
The Indigo Dragon dropped another tip. He said, if you like historical games, check out Aquilare.
Aquilare.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
Aquilare is a Spanish RPG, but I believe they now have an English translation. It was its mechanics are loosely based on basic role playing. It came out I think in the either the late 80s or the early 90s, and it is really the first true medieval authentic RPG. It was a huge inspiration for me in doing Dark Albion and Lion and Dragon, right? Because it's set in the real Middle Ages of Spain, with the monsters being from real Spanish folktale and legends, the magic based on popular ideas of how witchcraft worked. And it's just this gritty system. It's fantastic. I would certainly recommend Aquelarre to anyone. It was definitely one of the direct inspirations for Lion and Dragon. Blefis just sent us another 20 reals, and he says, Crusades, you'd better get ready to represent Euros as totally evil. Don't you dare showing conflict as something out of human nature with more to one side of it. And just again, some primordial evil. Evil is relative. Well, you know what, Blefis? I think that in the Crusades section of my game, I suspect that anyone who really wants to see the European Christians presented as evil will be very disappointed. And anyone who wants to see the Muslims presented as evil will be really disappointed, because basically, in as far as I'm concerned, in the Third Crusades, both Richard Lionheart and Saladin come out as absolute badasses. And basically, it's a bunch of people fighting over land with religious connotations, of course, especially on the side of the Christians. But it's it's a human conflict, and they were human beings. And as it happened, both of them had some flaws, but also some very noble qualities. You can't look at the story of Saladin and think that he wasn't a fascinating person, for example. And I even I even don't present Genghis Khan as exactly evil, though I do point out how devastating he is to the entire civilization that he comes across, because that's how I like to present my history, as something neutral, let's say, that is reflective of actual events and not with a political agenda, certainly not a modern political agenda one way or the other. But I do think that SJWs will look at anything that has to do with the Crusades and just freak right out no matter what you wrote, unless it presented European Christians as what they imagine orcs to be, that would be the only way.
Right, I think that about wraps it up. We're over our 90 minutes.
Greasy Smith says, can't wait for that Crusades book. I got a group of Christian and Islamic players who wanted to play. Well, I think they'll both be pleased with it. I go into huge sections on the Islamic society as it was at that time. It's very different than what modern Islamic society is like. I even present Sufis as a character class, the Islamic alternative to clerics. And as always, all of my stuff is very carefully researched and based on actual historical data and actual legends as people understood at the time. Just like the clerics get the powers that were often attributed to Christian holy men in medieval sources, the Sufis get powers that are commonly attributed to Sufi saints in Islamic sources. So yeah, it's gonna be good. Baldur's Gatekeeper says, I ran my first session of Warhammer Fantasy using Lion and Dragon. Everyone had a great time despite being skeptical of a non-5e rule set. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, Baldur's. That's awesome. All right. And Sadwings Rages says, Vlad Tepes is still a hero in his homeland. Well, a hero to a lot of people in Central Europe, I would point out. I had an ancestor that knew the guy, so... Genghis Khan is also a hero in his homeland, as Malachi Mercurial Musings points out, yeah? Well, obviously. All right, so I guess we're probably done for tonight. So remember to share the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and check back with us. We will probably have our next show on the 29th of August, and I guess we'll see you all then. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and thanks especially to everyone who contributed with live chat, with super chats, rather. We really appreciate it.
All of our
and we'll see you guys soon.
subscribers. Thank you so much.